What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Preview and Predictions podcast. Josh joining me as usual on these Friday. I guess is when you'll see them. We do record them on Thursday night, but on these Friday podcast YouTube video thingies we do here. So let's get into it, right?
Yeah, week 11.
So we just watched real quick. I guess we can talk about the Patriots.
Absolutely.
Just destroying the Falcons real quick before we get into all this other stuff. Yeah, man, the Patriots, I think I just posted they've allowed 13 points over their last 3 games. They've allowed 50 points over their last 5 games. That's outrageous.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's like I just asked him before we started recording, like, are they the most – and when I first ask you this, you might think to yourself, that's ridiculous. But then I want you to really think about it the way that I'm wording it. Are they the most complete team in the NFL? Like, offense is good. You know, I mean, they can, and when I say complete, I mean, can you run the ball? Do you run the ball consistently? And can you do it effectively? Yes. Can you throw the ball? Yeah. I mean, that Mac Jones can throw it. He's had some big games when they've needed to in terms of passing. And then defensively, can you stop the run? Yeah. Can you rush the passer? Yeah. And can you cover on the back end? Yeah. Like every aspect of football. Can you play special teams? Yeah. You know, every aspect of football as a team, they do very well. So I think there's an argument to be made that if they're not the most complete team, that they are, you know, they're a top 3 in that regard, I think. And I think that's a fair way to phrase it. You know, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, their defense is just playing outstanding right now, and Mac Jones is getting better and better as the season goes on.
The dude's completing like 90% of it. Like he's. It's not that he's better than I thought, but he is better than I thought he would be right away. I wasn't so sure about how pro ready he was, like based on or in comparison to the hype he was getting, but. Clearly, that was accurate. He's very, very pro-ready. He's still making rookie mistakes, like, you know, there was a little bit more interceptions than you'd like and all that stuff. But he's completing. I think they said on the broadcast he was like second or third in the NFL in completion percentage this year.
It's incredible.
Completing 69% of his passes as a rookie. Generally speaking, a guy I used to listen to on the radio, Pat Kerwin, former front office executive, was why I really value his opinion. He said – years ago, I heard him say this, and it's always stuck with me. Like, whatever a quarterback completes percentage-wise in college, you can drop it by 10% on average, and that's where they'll be in the pros. He's been, I think he was completing like 77%, so maybe that's still accurate with him. But the point is, it's translating immediately, and he's a good quarterback today, even if you compared him to veterans. Like, you know how I compared Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris to the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt thing?
Yeah.
I think that right now what Mac Jones is at quarterback for New England is comparable to what Baker Mayfield is in Cleveland, you know?
Yeah.
I think Baker's better in certain ways, especially with arm strength and all that kind of stuff. But, like, in terms of effective quarterback play, you know, Mac Jones is effective.
Yeah, he's been super impressive, and it's actually, you know, exciting to see.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
they just beat the brakes off the Falcons tonight. I mean,
just demolished.
35 points in fantasy.
And I saw some Patriot fans that were telling me, like, they were commenting on the post I just made, and they're saying, yeah, bad night for the offense, bad night for the offense. Like, dude, it's complimentary football, meaning your offense didn't play bad. They just did what they had to do to win. That's the whole point of football. That's why I say to people sometimes that running the ball is not just important. Like, you're not necessarily always trying to score a touchdown on one play, right? Like, you're not always – sometimes it's better to take time off the clock, you know, flip the field position, all that kind of stuff. So when you really break it down, the offense still put together some good drives tonight. I think they played winning football other than, of course, the one interception from Mac, I think, was their only turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they did what they had to do to win. The defense closed it out. It was nice.
They dominated on both sides of the ball.
I mean, they intercepted all 3 Falcon quarterbacks. Like,
yeah.
It's
Pretty
like
impressive.
whoever you threw in there
4
was going to
picks,
get the business.
4 sacks.
Yeah.
1 touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm sick that I had them on the bench.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Anyways, so yeah, New England's good, and they play Tennessee next week, and then I think it's Buffalo. So, or wait, I think something like that. Basically, soon we're gonna watch them play. I got it right here. Yeah, so it's Tennessee, then it's at Buffalo on Monday night. I cannot wait to see that. If Tennessee beats, I think Houston is who they play this week. Yeah. If Tennessee beats Houston, we're going to have the teams with the two longest current winning streaks going at it on or no, that's not Monday night, but that's the Sunday afternoon game. That's going to be a good one, in New England. So, yeah, I'm ready for that. But anyways, let's get on into the rest of this stuff here. And I guess the first one we'll start with Saints-Eagles, right?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let me just get the spreads out real quick on this game. The Eagles right now, this is in Philly, they are 1.5-point favorites, right? So that means if this were in New England, the Saints would be favorites by probably around a similar margin or whatever. And so over under is 42.5. The very first thing that sticks out to me in this one is Philly's been running the ball like crazy lately, like 40-plus times a game, running for a little bit more than 208 yards per game on average, whereas New Orleans doesn't allow rush yards. They're the best run defense in the NFL. They're allowing 2.5 yards per carry. I believe that's over the last 3 games, but they've been just awesome in that regard all season long. So that right there, and it goes both ways too. Like the Saints, obviously are going to have to run the football with Alvin Kamara's back, and the Eagles are a pretty good run defense as well. So we'll see which one of those things holds truer in this one.
Yeah, it's looking like Kamara's going to be out again in this one.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so he was.
Wow.
He did not participate today, downgraded. They're saying it's an MCL sprain, which is obviously a multi-week.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
wait, didn't they just Ian Rappaport or something like that last night? Didn't he tweet, good news for Kamara?
He returned to practice Wednesday, getting a limited session, and then today he was downgraded to DMP.
Oh, man.
So
that's
going to hurt their chances for sure.
Yeah.
Especially the Eagles. Eagles are playing good, playing better, I should say. Jalen Hurts is learning as he goes. He's starting to play well.
They have found their identity, in my opinion.
They have, and they're about to get Miles Sanders back. He's already said he's gonna have to split carries with Jordan Howard going forward because
Miles said that.
Yeah, no, the coach said that.
Wow, because Jordan Howard's been. What about Boston Scott?
Yeah.
We don't care about him anymore?
Okay, him too. So, but I like the Eagles in this one.
I kind of like the Eagles in this one, too. Here's the thing. When the games or when the matchup is even like this, you go with, I think, 2, maybe not always, but 2 critical factors are where's the game being played, because home field does matter, especially when you got 60,000 fans or whatever it is in the stadium like this year as opposed to last year, and which quarterback is better. I think that's a fair thing to say in this one. And then we also have a piece of evidence to look at from last year's game where Jalen Hurts had, I think it was 14 carries for 106 yards in that game. Miles Sanders went over 100 yards, and that was the same Saints. That was the Saints when they had that streak in terms of run defense where they didn't allow a 100-yard rusher in I think it was 16, 18 games, something like that. And Philly had both guys, their quarterback and Jalen Hurts' first ever start, and Miles Sanders both go for over 100. I don't think we're going to see that kind of effectiveness on the ground, but I do think Philly I do think they'll be able to run the football at least effectively enough, especially with Jalen Hurts. That's the equalizer because he is just a mismatch. It's a numbers game, and you have a real advantage when you have a running quarterback. And so, yeah, I think that the Eagles win this game. I'm going to say it's a probably low-scoring game. I like the over-under. I think it's 42.5, I said. I'll take Philly to win it 24-20. So I guess I'm going over.
Yeah, that's crazy because I was going to pick the Eagles 23-20.
Okay. And
so
that means we both like them to cover, obviously, because it's only 1.5 spread in that way. But we also both just barely like the over as it stands.
Definitely like the Eagles in this one. This is going to be their first win at home. I mean, they have to get it right here, right now.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're 0-4 at home. So
I do remember you saying that.
This is where they get it. Trevor Siemian, isn't
Yeah,
a beast.
that Philly defense.
No Kamara. It's going to be tough.
I'm shocked about the no Kamara thing. I just
Although
when
Mark Ingram could potentially, have a big game. He's going to be their workhorse.
Yeah, I mean shit. I guess it's gonna be throwback to the old, to the old or the young Mark Ingram in that way. And something I think that people aren't really talking about enough is this Philadelphia defense is actually playing pretty well. In all facets, really, like Teddy Bridgewater last week completed, averaged 6.3 yards per pass attempt, was completing a fairly low percentage by Teddy standards, percentage of his passes, and that play where I don't think we're talking enough about that play where Teddy just decided not to tackle the dude.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, like you said, business decision. he's been hurt enough in his career. He was like, "Fuck it."
Yeah, he's like, I'm 29 years old. I got at least one more decent sized paycheck ahead of me to be a compete to start guy. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's crazy how we killed Cam Newton for not diving on the fumble. And then Teddy Bridgewater blatantly, this was far more blatant than Cam's. Teddy Bridgewater's kind of just skating right through this with no real blowback. And to me, if I were the coach, I'd bench him for a game or at least the rest of that game in that situation because it resulted in a touchdown.
Yeah.
It was not like, it was huge. But anyways, yeah, man, Philly is trending up, and I think that I think they're low key dangerous. And by the way,
Jalen Hurts has a lot to do with it too.
Oh, he has
Devontae
he has a
Smith,
whole lot to do
obviously.
with it. Yeah, Devontae's been phenomenal lately,
He's an animal.
I did this podcast the other day, and I was just talking about the wild card teams. It was obviously a solo pod, but like Philly is right now one game out of the wild card. They're one game behind the Panthers for the 7th seed, and they have a victory over the Panthers. So, they're right there in the thick of it. They're not by any means out of it. And so they have something to play for. And I don't think they'll ultimately get there if I had to bet on it. But anyways.
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance. All right, Dolphins at the Joe Flacco-led Jets. This should be interesting. By the way, some of you guys, we're going to do a start-sit pod after this, but some of you guys have been asking me, like, should I start? Or a couple of you, I think, said Joe Flacco was when you're, and I'm like, is Tua available for those guys? Like, because Tua to me is a much better start than Flacco.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I would imagine he's available in quite a few leagues. So I would rather you start Tua than Flacco, just so you know. But Flacco, I guess, is not a terrible start. But I mean, we saw Mike White throw for 400 yards with with this Jets coaching staff or whatever. So maybe Flacco can have some kind of a game like that. But I will say, the Dolphins' defense has been playing much better lately.
Yeah, they
have. Much better. I mean, we saw what they did to Baltimore, and now they had a mini bye week to really, kind of get everything back on track and in order for the Jets. So if I'm the Dolphins, and by the way, the Dolphins are 3 games out of the playoffs. Now, that seems like a lot in NFL football, but stranger things have happened. I don't think – I didn't even talk about them in the wild card episode I did of the pod, but I will say I think that Brian Flores and company need to finish strong because if you go out there and just lay an egg when when a lot of people, especially fans of the Dolphins, had playoff aspirations, you don't want to do that. But now they've won 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. They're going to the Jets. I think this is a very winnable game. To get to 3 wins in a row with several weeks left in the season, I think would be huge for Miami.
I mean, if they are bringing the blitz like they did last week,
that was relentless.
It's gonna be over quick for the Jets. They're aggressive, so they're gonna be after them for sure.
Yeah, and I think that Jets offensive line is not, it's not bulletproof by any means. Mm-hmm. I think that they're going to try and have Flacco get the ball out of his hands quickly, but at the end of the day, I think the Dolphins are just going to be too much for him. I think that right now, as it stands, and look, their record is fairly similar: 3-7 Dolphins, 2-7 Jets. I think that I trust the Dolphins a whole lot more right now.
Yeah,
So I still like Michael Carter in this game. I think he's been a guy that just is game flow
Yeah,
proof.
I mean,
and
he'll probably
matchup
be
proof.
leaned on out of the backfield. He could
Oh,
potentially have 5 or 6
I
catches
can
this
see
game.
Joe Flacco just targeting him every snap. If they're
Yeah.
running that blitz at them, Joe
Yes.
Flacco's gonna be like, "Get the ball out of my hand. I'm not trying to take any hits.
You're
I'm
right.
not holding the ball.
Yeah, he's
Here you go, MC."
definitely could have a
You know,
big game this week.
yeah. Jesus, Mike White threw 4 interceptions last week. That was just so bad.
So bad.
Anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna take the Dolphins to win this game. What's the over under this one? I know I probably just said it, but I forgot it already. The over under. Okay, so Miami's a 3.5 point road favorite, which is pretty significant, and the over under is 44.5. So, I like the Dolphins to win this game. I'm gonna say 24-14 Dolphins. I think they handle them.
My prediction: 24-13 Dolphins.
Wow. So I like that, actually. I like that better. So what would that be? That would be both of us like the under in this one, right? Or no, 24-14, 38. Yeah. So, yeah, both of us like the under. And we'd like the Dolphins to cover. So that's actually a good bet. I'm thinking now the Dolphins to cover and, parlayed with the under. I think that is because the Jets' defense isn't awful.
Does Tua over under 300 yards in this one?
Oh, under. I think he'll have 260. I think because
rushing yards over under 60.
I think he needs to not run the ball because, dude, he's gonna break. Like he can't. He keeps breaking. Like you got to be gentle with Tua right now. Just don't run unless you absolutely have to. And when you do, get your ass down. Absolutely. Under 300 total yards from Tua, but I do think he'll be a decent streaming option. I mean, I could see 20 rushing yards, which bumps up 2 points, and then I could see like 260 and 2 touchdowns.
Gaskins is a good play this week.
He's an every down back now. I mean, for them, he's starting to become the guy he was for them last year. And yeah, man, I think you're absolutely right on that. That's something I think. I'm not sure if I made a post on that, but I meant to if I didn't. And let me check out his snap counts lately because they've been rising. Okay, so
I mean. The Jets give up the most fantasy points to the RB position, so Gaskins got a good matchup this week.
Yeah, I mean, check this out. His touches over the last 4 weeks, let me see here, 19, 15, 26, 15.
In his last 3 games, though, with all his carries, he's gotten 31, 34, and 36 yards.
Yeah, it's been really abysmal from the yards per carry standpoint. But the important thing is in fantasy football, he's averaging 2.2 yards.
The volume is there.
Bro, 2.2 yards per rush attempt.
Hey, this might even be a start of the week for me.
Myles Gaskin? Yeah, I mean, that's...
And in the RB position for sure. I mean, the Jets are giving up the most. So
It's something that I think, he's a good start. Yep. All right, so we both like the Dolphins there. Let's talk about the game. One of the games I'm most excited for, the Washington football team at
Cam Newton,
Carolina Panthers, baby.
Versus his old coach.
Yeah, Cam versus Rivera. And, okay, so what's the spread? Let's get into that first so we can have a baseline for kind of what we're talking about here. Okay, Carolina's a 3-point favorite. Over-under is just 43, which I think is about right. I think that's a pretty fair over-under, and I think that's a pretty fair, spread right now because Carolina's coming off a gigantic win in Arizona against what was the 1 seed in the NFC. Granted, it was without Kyler Murray, and it was without DeAndre Hopkins, and, of course, J.J. Watt's out and all that stuff. We get it. But they still dominated a very good team, and that exact group of players went into San Francisco, who we just saw beat up on the Rams the week before, and they beat up on the Niners. So that's the NFL for you. You know what I mean? We can sit there and say, oh, they didn't have this guy, they didn't have that guy, but then the week before you did, and you beat up on a really good or a pretty solid team in San Francisco. So Washington is coming off a bye, right? So interesting to see how they do coming off a bye. If I remember correctly, Ron Rivera is not the greatest coming off of a bye week. He's not Andy Reid in that way, statistically speaking. So obviously, and I tweeted this out earlier and posted it, I think, on the Instagram story, Cam Newton is going to run the ball in this game.
Yeah, they're going to have to contain him. Otherwise, if they're going to lose this game, if they can't.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Ron Rivera game plans to defend Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
He knows him about as well as anybody, as I mentioned about Belichick with Brady and Dan Quinn with Matt Ryan last week. Like, we've always seen, that coach has seen basically every game of this kid's career, or this man's career at this point. Now Cam's a man. He's seen every bad game. You know what I mean? Aside from last year, I guess. So he's seen what Cam struggles with, and we'll see what he does to do that. I mean, to me, I'm gonna look very long and hard at the game plan for Washington, but I do think that because Cam's not gonna know the entirety of the playbook yet, I think they'll lean on the run. You know, and I really think that would be a smart thing to do. Did a lot of design runs. You know,
Hey, well, we got a healthy C-Mac now.
Yeah.
Tough loss for Washington and Chase Young being out for the season.
That sucks.
But I like the Panthers in this one.
Wait a minute. Washington's not coming off a bye. They're coming off beating the Bucs, aren't they? Am I crazy?
Was that last week?
Let me see. Yeah, they had their bye week, and then they beat the Bucs last week.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
So scratch the whole Rivera of the bye thing. Whatever. Point is, I mean, they beat. Okay, so both of these teams now beat, what looked to be potentially powerhouse teams in the NFC last week, and Washington did it in Washington. Carolina went on the road and beat Arizona. So that's interesting, but I just have a feeling that the Cam Newton effect is going to overwhelm these guys.
Yeah,
I really do.
I can,
especially in Carolina.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, and if Matt Rule and the Panthers beat Ron Rivera and the Washington football team this week, that would mean Matt Rule is 2-0 against Ron Rivera in his career, which is kind of wild. I guess not crazy, but it's something to consider. And it would also mean that Matt Rule, and this is kind of random, is 2-0 against Cliff Kingsbury. So take that. They beat him last year too. So that's kind of a nice little notch on the belt in terms of, guys that you could, because I think Washington's a young team that's getting better. I think the Cardinals are a team that's going to be around for a while, and I think the Panthers are a team, so like maybe 5 years from now we'll be looking at this like, oh, wow, Matt Rule beats Kingsbury and Rivera, and we'll be talking about it like that if he can get the job done tomorrow. So, I'm sorry, not tomorrow, fucking Sunday, tomorrow. Today's Thursday. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to take the Panthers to win. I think it's going to be very much a defensive struggle.
For sure.
I think that Cam Newton's going to make enough plays with his legs to get things to just, to get it done. And I think ultimately the Panthers defense will be good enough to contain this Washington offense. I just ultimately trust that the Panthers can score more points, So I'll say 23-17 Panthers.
I'm going to go 20-17 Panthers.
Okay. So then we both like the under, and we basically both like the cover. You said they're going to push. I said they're going to cover. Yeah, man, I like that. I think that
it should be a fun game. Especially watching Cam Newton come back ready to go against his old team or old coach.
And in Carolina, he's already talking about we have to reclaim Bank of America Stadium. Cam is fired up.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
Someone told me the other day, like, his heart wasn't with it in New England, and his heart's in Carolina.
I mean, it's just tough to play in New England, and I think the Panthers fit Cam Newton better.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's essentially home for him.
Oh, it's home. Yeah,
he lives in Charlotte, right?
Yeah, he has a place there. He's from Atlanta, but like it's not far from Atlanta, just a couple hours away.
Right.
And yeah, man, he's back. He's home. He feels
C-Mac's back, ready to rock.
Yeah, he feels reinvigorated. That place.
Hey, I'm excited about
rocking.
DJ Moore because finally he can start getting better production.
I think DJ is going to have a much better finish to his season than what he's been doing lately. But yeah, we both like Carolina. I think 23-17. You said 23-20, right?
No, 2017.
2017. Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's talk some Colts at the Bills. So Buffalo either destroys a team or loses in disappointing fashion. I mean, that's just what they've done.
But they've also kind of padded their record. I mean, their wins have been against, bottom of the barrel teams.
That's kind of true.
Yeah, and they've lost, tough matchups. To Tennessee? They lost to the Steelers. Who else did they lose? They lost to the Jags. I don't know how.
Don't even get it. I'm still salty about that.
I think after last week and how they played and how they rebounded, I think they're going to come out on all cylinders in this one again.
But look, that's exactly what they did after the Titans lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
They lost to the Titans, then they beat up on Miami 26-11 in what was a pretty dominant game, and then they go out and throw up a clunker against Jacksonville. And then when you look back at, Yeah, I mean, so when you look at it, they're 2-2 in their last 4 games. So they're not exactly on a full head of steam of momentum. However, as you mentioned, last week was much better. 45-17 dismantled the New York Jets in New York. Josh Allen was 21 of 28, 366, 2 touchdowns and a pick. But look at that. The key number there is 28 attempts.
Yeah.
Just, you don't have to go 45, like, you don't have to do all the crazy stuff, right? In their losses, real quick, Josh Allen's pass attempts in their losses: 51 in the Pittsburgh game, 47 in the Tennessee game, 47 in the Jacksonville game. In their wins, he's only had over 40 attempts twice. So in their 6 wins. So I mean, it tells you something there. It's not all just game flow. A lot of times it's we won because we were balanced. Because if they pull that shit against the Patriots, I promise you they're going to look a lot like the Falcons tonight. I really believe that. And
I mean, look, the Colts are playing. They've won their last 4 of the 5 games.
Yeah.
So they're playing good right now. It's just a matter of what Carson Wentz is going to do. I mean, is he going to go out there and
it's a tough matchup too in Buffalo against that defense.
He could very well just make some boneheaded mistakes on Sunday.
Yeah, it's funny because his reputation precedes him. It's like his reputation makes us think that he's gonna.
I feel like their wins and losses really rely on how he plays.
I mean, in
solely.
large part, that's true almost with anybody, especially just at the quarterback position. But I agree with you. He's got to play well, especially in this game.
Yeah.
When you look at Buffalo, right, like they have the 3rd best run defense in the NFL in terms of allowing 3 yards per carry, 3.8, and over the last 3 weeks they've got the 2nd best, allowing just 3.0 yards per carry. So,
yeah, this will be another tough test for the Bills and see how they can win against a decent team. But
they did beat the Chiefs, by the way, Buffalo.
Yeah, they did, but the Chiefs are playing a lot better now. So
that's true.
Especially on defense. But yeah, I'm still taking the Bills in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close one.
Yeah. Remember last year, these 2 teams played. Oh, by the way, it's a 7.5-point Buffalo spread in favor of the Bills, 7.5 points, and the over-under is 49.5. So, take that for what you will. They played each other last year in the playoffs, and if I remember correctly, that was a pretty low-scoring game. For the most part, I think maybe Buffalo pulled away at the end, but it was very competitive for the majority of the game. Of course, that was Phillip Rivers and not Carson Wentz. Who do you think's better, by the way, Carson Wentz right now or Phillip Rivers last year?
Maybe Phillip Rivers last year.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty solid last year until that. He was solid. Like, he was much better than what he had been the previous year in L.A.
I feel like the Saints should call him.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Sean Payton with Phillip Rivers.
Doesn't he live in like Mississippi or something? Alabama
or somewhere like that. Yeah,
wherever he grew up.
He's just a high school football coach.
Mm-hmm.
Just being old Phillip Rivers. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Carson Wentz is actually playing fairly well right now. When you look at the issues with when the Colts offense seems to sputter, it seems to be when they get more reliant on like just pass heavy and they get real screen heavy. I don't think Colts fans like when they get like that. But like last week, for example, Jonathan Taylor had 100 yards rushing in the first half, and then basically they went away from it and they went all these screens and passes, and the Jaguars almost came back and beat them. But the previous 4 games, okay, the Colts scored 31 points, 30 points, 31 points, 45 points. So they were scoring a lot of points. So the offense can put up points. Now, Carson Wentz in those games, averaging only 219 yards per game through the air, but he had 10 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, and he was only sacked 5 times in those 4 games. So it's pretty good in that way. But he was, again, 6.9 yards per pass, and not exactly chunking it down the field. I think they're going to have to get a little bit aggressive, and I think they're going to have to lean on Jonathan Taylor, then get aggressive in the pass game, try and have some play action off of that. And because you're going to have to create chunk plays against Buffalo, but you're also going to have to be very careful because you want to avoid mistakes. So it's going to be one of those kind of games, in my opinion. But I'm with you. I'm going to take the Bills. I'll say the Buffalo Bills win this game 27-23. Yeah, 27-23. I like Indy to cover.
I'm going to take the Bills 31-27. 31-27.
So you like it to be a high-scoring game.
And like you said, the Bills need to run the ball this week. Breida is actually kind of energized their backfield a little bit, so maybe they can get him. Yeah, maybe they can get him more involved, and then also get the rest of them involved.
Yep, I agree. All right, so now we've got the the Lions at Browns. This is going to be a juggernaut game of the week. No, I'm just kidding. But so Cleveland's coming off of an absolute demolition of the Patriots last week. I think it was like 45-7, if I remember correctly. Jesus. But yeah, they need to win. They're 11-point favorites in Cleveland against the Lions this week. Over under 43.5. Last week, the Lions tied the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. So shout out to them for that, not losing again. That was nice. I think Jared Goff's a little banged up right now, isn't he?
Yeah, so is Baker.
Yeah, so, this could be...
I mean, Jared Goff is just... we know how I feel about Jared Goff.
Well, you said you'd rather have Sam Darnold than Jared Goff.
I would at this point.
No, you would not. Stop.
He's so bad. He had, 40 yards?
Sam Darnold's bad.
Yeah, he's awful.
Okay.
But yes, much rather have Goff over Darnold, but that's not the point. The point is here that Goff is done. I mean, he can't throw the ball.
Not done. He just doesn't have a lot in the way of weapons, and he's banged up.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be real. He's a placeholder until they can draft a new QB.
Yeah, probably so. But I think if you surround him with a bunch of talent, he can go to the Super Bowl because he's already proven that. But anyways, do the Browns cover the 11-point spread here? That's my biggest question.
Yes.
11.
I think they do.
The Lions are competitive, man. They don't generally speaking, they don't get blown out. Like, they don't lose.
They tied the Steelers last week.
Yeah, and the Steelers are 5-3-1. They're not a bad team. But of course, they did get dismantled by the Eagles a couple weeks ago, 44-6. They lost by 9 against the Rams in LA. They got destroyed by the Bengals, 34-11. But before that, it was pretty well. I guess they have had their share of double-digit losses. So I understand the spread there, especially when you look at the dismantling just 2 weeks ago against the Eagles, or I guess 3 weeks ago now because they had a bye week in there. But I love how they came so run-heavy in that Pittsburgh game, though. My goodness. DeAndre Swift had 33 carries in that one.
Yeah, they had 229 rush yards last week.
Yeah, they were not screwing around with what they were doing on the ground there.
Well, that's all they had.
Yeah, I mean, it was a whole lot of DeAndre Swift, and then the other two guys, Jamar Jefferson and Godwin,
played well.
They only had 5 combined carries, but 97 total yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, remarkable.
So they popped some big ones, and Swift didn't get as many big ones, but he did. He had 130 yards on the ground, so I'll take it as a happily DeAndre Swift owner. So. In this game, I like the Browns.
Yeah, of course.
I think Baker
he's banged up right now, so hopefully he can go out there and have a good game and not take any hits and get, make any of them any worse.
Yeah, and I think that they need the Browns. I'm talking about they need Nick Chubb, and they at least need one of the Chubb or Hunt, one of those guys.
Well, Hunt's definitely not going to be back this week, but
right. But Chubb looks like he's trending in the right direction, quote unquote, and that's big because if you can get just Nick Chubb 20 carries or 18 carries, whatever, I think he's going to probably return 100 yards on that.
Yeah. I would
probably have a 30-yard touchdown run.
I would definitely take the over in that.
Yeah. So, but as far as covering, that makes me nervous. I'm going to say no, and here's why. I'm going to predict the Cleveland Browns victory, but I'm going to predict it in the way of 23-13. So I guess it's not really a why. It's more of a just what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be sort of how their Broncos game was when that was 17-14. But, we've also seen them play several games like that this year. The Minnesota game, 14-7. The Steelers game, 15-10. They lost that one. We've seen some low-scoring affairs for them. I think this one will be similar to that. And they only scored 7 points last week. Of course, against the New England Patriots, so it's a little bit different there. And they didn't have Chubb, and I think if they had Chubb, he's good for at least another touchdown there.
Yeah, if Chubb plays this week, they're at home.
He's playing.
Yeah, okay, so he's playing. So. If Baker plays well, get right game for the Browns. I'm taking the Browns in this one, and I do predict that they will cover the spread at 27-13.
Okay, I can get behind that. I mean, that's a pretty fair way to slice it up. Baker Mayfield this year, man, in 9 games has 9 touchdowns. That's not what you want to see.
Is Dearness Johnson a flex play?
Yeah. I'm not thrilled to do it, but yeah, he absolutely is. Absolutely. 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for Baker. But he is averaging over 8 yards per pass attempt, so that should tell you why, again, running the ball is so important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why that's the best ever. Oh, by the way, QBR, if you are into QBR by the quarterbacks, in terms of a way to measure quarterback play, this is Baker's worst season ever in terms of QBR. So keep that in mind. I'm not really huge into QBR. I think that sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't. But in any event, we both like the Browns to win. I think it'll be a little closer than he thinks, but I totally understand. I could see the Browns winning this game like 30-0 too. I definitely could see that happening. But I think the Lions will keep it a little bit more competitive, and they're looking for that first win, so they're hungry. All right, 49ers at Jaguars. What to do about this one? We got San Francisco coming off a demolition of the Rams.
Yeah.
And we've got the Jaguars that beat the Bills 2 weeks ago, and they went into Indy and almost beat the Colts last week. Almost came back to beat the Colts. So it's like, what do we think of the Jaguars now?
I still think they're going to get their ass whooped.
I think that, but here's what I will say, and tell me if you agree. I think Jacksonville, I'm ready to say this. I think their defense is good.
Okay.
Would you agree with that statement?
I mean,
maybe we'll
they're
say
getting
decent,
better.
Decent to. I mean, they held the Bills to 6 points.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, I feel like it was just another off day for Josh Allen.
I mean, he threw the ball. He attempted. I think it was 47.
Yeah, but I feel like if and when they play again, he will dominate.
Josh Allen will?
Yeah.
Oh, they're not going to play again. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
If they were to do it again, yeah. So San Francisco's a 6-point favorite in Jacksonville, keep in mind. So it's that's kind of why it's not, in my opinion, 8 points or so.
Mm-hmm.
And over-under's 45 in this game. So as I just said, I think Jacksonville's defense is actually pretty good. And the reason I think that is because they get after quarterbacks. Like they've been stout against the run all year long. So when you look at that, right? If Jacksonville can be stout against the San Francisco rushing attack,
well,
it could be interesting. Now, Jonathan Taylor did whatever he wanted against them last week, but that's Jonathan Taylor. He's the best running back in football as far as I'm concerned at this particular moment.
Yes. I mean, he's 1 yard shy of beating Henry in rush yards.
Wow. That's crazy. So Jacksonville's defense, if you're just looking at them from a fantasy standpoint, they didn't have a great game last week, right? They didn't have a bunch of sacks, a bunch of picks. But in our league, we track this, so it helps me to track this. What do we give per 3 and out? A point? Half a point?
Yeah.
Okay, so we give when a defense forces a 3 and out, which I think we should do in every league.
I think it's a quarter of a point.
A quarter of a point? I think it needs to be a point, or at least half a point. Anyways, point is we track those and we do give something for them. So Jacksonville last week against the Colts forced 5 3 and outs. 5. That's a lot of 3 and outs. Like that. I mean, how many possessions would you say you normally get in a game? 8 or 9, 10? Like, and they forced 5 3 and outs. I mean, they're going to have more possessions because of the quick ones that they had in terms of 3 and outs last week. But to me, the Jaguar defense is pretty. Let me see how many they forced against the Bills. No 3 and outs. Unbelievably enough, they did have a 4th down stop. Did not force a 3 and out, but they had 4 sacks, only allowed 6 points, had 2 picks and a fumble recovery. So there was that. But
if the Niners run the ball like they did last week, they're gonna beat the hell out of the Jags.
So something I should have, I agree. Something I should have noted entering 2 weeks ago's game against Buffalo. Jacksonville's defense against Seattle, right, where they allowed 31 points, and on the surface, Geno Smith did whatever he wanted, was like 21 of 24, whatever. In that game, they sacked Geno Smith 3 times, and they forced 5 3-and-outs. So maybe the week before they had a bye week, maybe they figured something out after the bye week. And, you know, they were trying to tell us something in that Seattle game, but when your offense is abysmal, it's going to put a good defense back on the field over and over again. I've talked about that many times, and a lot of times you can make a good defense look bad, you know, and that's, I think, what happened in the Seattle game. But the last 2 weeks, you know, defense only allowed 29 points, and that's good for 14.5 points per game. That's phenomenal. They've been either getting 3-and-outs or forcing turnovers. So I think Jacksonville's defense will keep them in this game. I think that what they do best is stop the run. San Francisco without a run game becomes a very iffy offense. Yeah, and then I think they can get some pressure on Jimmy. This could be an upset.
It could be.
I'm not going to pick it for an upset.
Yes.
Because I think the 49ers have found their mojo. And, you know, but I do think Jacksonville makes it close. I think San Francisco pulls away at the end. I do like the Niners to cover. I'm going to say 27. I'm going to say 24-14 Niners. That's the under in the Niners cover.
I'm going to say it's a little closer, 24-20 Niners.
Wow, so you like the Jags to cover this one. I dig it. I think San Francisco found something last week, and I think they're going to just eventually overwhelm the Jags.
They had 44 rushes for 156 yards and a touchdown.
So the rush yards per carry was not very good.
Yeah,
but they did it consistently, and they just imposed their will
18 times.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I think San Francisco's playing. They know it's their playoff lives are on the line.
Yeah, they
got to win games.
Their defense is playing good right now.
Yeah,
I mean they dominated.
Yeah, they dominated Matthew Stafford. That's going to be a whole lot more difficult than dominating. What's his name? Trevor Lawrence, greatest quarterback prospect in history. The Jacksonville offense is just abysmal. Let me just look real quick. So the points that they've scored over the last 3 games, this is since their bye week, right? We just talked about their defense maybe has figured something out since the bye week. The offense has not, right? They have not cracked 20 points once in the last 3 games. They've scored 7, 9, so that's 16 plus 17 last week. That's 34 points or 33 points? 33 points over the last 3 weeks. It's 11 points per game. That's awful. And you're playing against the San Francisco 49ers defense that's good. I mean, we have to call them good because of what they did to the Rams last week. I mean, yeah, Colt McCoy did whatever he wanted the week before, but that was a division game and just a good game plan from Kingsbury, game flow, positive, all that stuff. But to me, I think the Niners defense has been good all year long. I just think their offense has really been an issue. And, yeah, I like them to win it. What is Deebo Samuel going to do? 80 yards over under. Receiving yards.
Over.
Okay, yeah, he's been phenomenal. Dude, this guy got him in the 7th round. And
yeah, he was going after Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, in every single draft that happened this year. I did see a random guy on Twitter, one of his quote-unquote bold predictions. If you're watching this, let me know and I'll shout you out. I don't know who you are. I can't remember. But one of his bold predictions was Deebo Samuel will score more fantasy points than Brandon Ayuk, and that looks right as rain right now.
Yeah, he's an absolute fantasy stud this season.
Yeah, like Deebo could sit out the rest of the year and still finish with more points than Ayuk. So that's actually a lock at this point. So anyways, Texans at the Titans. Let's make this one quick and painless, shall we?
Yeah, the Titans are gonna dominate the Texans.
Okay, let me contrary this for just a second. Could Houston keep this close?
No.
Okay.
No. Absolutely not.
For you.
Not with Tennessee's defense playing how they are right now. I mean, they've won the last 2 without Derrick Henry.
Dude, I was so disappointed to see Tyrod Taylor make his return 2 weeks ago against the Dolphins and be held to 9 points and just play terribly. Like, it was not a good day for him, even though on the very opening drive, he went right down the field, looked like they were going to score a touchdown, and then, boom, they blew it. I picked them to win that game, I remember. It didn't happen. But the previous week, Davis Mills brought them almost all the way back against the Rams. So they showed signs of life offensively in that way. Maybe they should go back to if Tyrod struggles again this week, I want to see Davis Mills back on that field instantly come week 12. So, anyways, I think the Texans are going to get, I think they'll keep it relatively close, and then ultimately Tennessee will just impose their will, because the Tennessee Titans, man, they're on the longest win streak currently in the NFL. It's 7 games, and their defense might be a top 10 unit, and that might be selling them short. But I think they're safely, at least the way they've been playing lately, I think they're a top 10, top 12 unit in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and the Texans are definitely the bottom unit.
Let me ask you this.
In the NFL right now.
Better offense, Houston or Jacksonville?
Jacksonville.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. If they didn't have James Robinson, I would probably say the Texans, but
yeah, I guess
he's a weapon.
Right. Brandon Cooks or James Robinson, who's more valuable to the offense?
Well, it would have to be Brandon Cooks for the Texans, only because there's literally nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nobody else.
That's true. I don't know if anybody else on their team. I'm kidding. But
David Johnson?
Yeah, God knows. But the point is, Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod's there maybe.
Tennessee's a 10-point favorite.
I feel like that's kind of a value. You feel like that's, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they cover.
You don't think they cover?
No.
Wow. Okay. I did pick the Rams to cover against the Texans, and it was like 16 or something crazy. That didn't happen because the Texans came back and made it a push in that way. Or no, it was 16.5, and the Texans came back and covered by 0.5 point after being down like 28-0. This one, I think Tennessee covers, but I think it's ugly. I think they make you sweat it out. I think it's like a 26-10 game, something like that. I just don't know if Houston, or maybe 26-13. 26-13. What do you got on the score?
I'm going to go Titans 24-14. So they push. I'll take the push.
I dig it. Okay, Packers at Vikings. So check this out. The spread in this game. It's in Minnesota. The spread in this game. Take a guess at what the spread is. Who do you think? Don't look. Who do you think would be the favorite in this game, and by how much?
The Packers by like 2.
Wow, it's 1. Green Bay is a 1-point favorite, and the what I take from that is this: Vegas is respecting the Minnesota Vikings, and the reason, in my opinion, that they're respecting them is because their defense is pretty damn good. But here's where Vegas,
their defense is really good.
Yeah, and they were terrible last year.
Yes.
And they allowed 60 points over the first 2 games of this year. So
did you see what they did in Seattle? They completely shut down Russell Wilson last week.
Oh, yeah. No, they've been on a tear, bro. Minnesota's defense, let me pull it up real quick, has been, in terms of just allowing points, aside from the Baltimore game where, Baltimore scored 34 on them, which, no shame in that. It's the Baltimore Ravens. And aside from the Carolina game where they didn't really allow 28, but they allowed 28 technically.
Mm-hmm.
In week 3, they've allowed 17, 14, 17, 28, which, again, wasn't 28, 20, 34, 20. So they've been, aside from a hiccup against Baltimore, really, really, really good. Like fewer than 20 points. If you're holding teams to less than 20 points in NFL games, you are doing something right, or even 20 or fewer. And last week they held the Chargers in L.A. to just 20 points. So, to me, the over-under of 47 here feels a little bit high. But what do you think about the way Green Bay's offense played last week? Do you think that means that, do you think that
they're going to have another tough outing?
Yeah, because
Aaron Jones is out, so that's definitely going to hurt him. On the road, I don't know.
In Minnesota against a desperate Vikings team.
Yeah, they very well could have another down game on the offense. But if they get A.J. Dillon going and going quick, I think it'll open up the pass more, obviously, for Devontae Adams. And they can – I don't know. Do you think the Packers win this one?
Here's the thing. Minnesota.
They can very well win this based solely on their defense right now.
Yeah. So
like they showed last week.
Minnesota, here's the issue for them. They allow their 30th in yards per carry allowed, 4.7. If they can stop the run or contain the run, if they can just hold them to like 4 yards per carry, 3.8 yards a carry, something like that, then they can definitely win this game. But Kirk Cousins is going to have to produce against the Packer defense that has been one of the very best units in all of football for the last, I don't know, man. What was it, like a month or so? I've been seeing it. I saw Field Yates tweeted this out, like what they've allowed in terms of points per game against them lately against elite competition in, let's see, the Seattle Seahawks. So Russell Wilson, donut. The week before they played Patrick Mahomes. That guy's pretty good at football. They allowed 13 points. The week before that, Kyler Murray, and only allowed 21, right? So that's 34 points in their last 3 games. That's outrageous, you know? And so now you got Kirk Cousins who's coming in, and, you know, Kirk is obviously he's not necessarily an elite player, but he's a good one. And I think the reason, what do you think the reason for the 47-point over-under? Let me go back and look at what they've done last year, because it has to be that historically they just score a lot of points against each other. I'm going to assume that's the case, but
yeah, I'm definitely taking over in this one.
The over.
Yes.
So you think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to score more points against them than Mahomes and Murray and all those guys? Wow. What's your reasoning for that?
I mean, I just like you said, I think they're known to, you know, score a bunch of points against each other in this rivalry. So
yeah,
I don't know. I like the over for sure.
So okay, in last week they played week 1. The combined point total, you ready for this, was 76. That's outrageous. Kirk Cousins in that game had completed 76% of his passes, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, average almost 10.5 yards an attempt.
I mean, look, if whatever team gets up on the other, they're going to have to come from behind, and they're known for, you know, their passing game. And obviously with the Vikings, Dalvin Cook is back and healthy. So if he can get going, I mean, you never know.
Look,
I definitely taking the over in this one.
Yeah, in the second game they played, which was in week 8, the Vikings actually won that one, 28-22 in Green Bay. And so what's that point total? 50, right? Is that 50? Yeah. So that's 50. So yeah, both times they went over 20. They went over the 47. In that second game, Kirk Cousins threw the ball 14 times. So they must have just run all over Green Bay in that game. And, I mean, why not, right? If the Green Bay, if there's a weakness, it's definitely their run defense. So I think from that, like Dalvin Cook in that one had 30 carries for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. My goodness.
Yeah, if he gets going early in this one, they have a good chance of winning. And they need this. This will get them back to what, 500?
Yeah, this will get them back to 500, and they will then be, well, if the Panthers lose, they'll be ahead of the Panthers because record-wise and because they beat them. So they have a heads-up over Carolina. They're the one team that, as a Panther fan, I'm a little concerned about when it comes down to, like, you know, if we're going to make that 7 seed. Because if we finish with the same record as Minnesota, they get in. They beat us, you know. So that's interesting. But the Packers, let me check what their run defense is doing real quick. Because, as I mentioned, if there's a weakness, it's definitely that. And, yeah, man, they allow 4.6 yards a carry on the ground. So I think that the formula is as simple as what they did last year in that second game in Week 8. Mm-hmm. Run the hell out of Dalvin Cook and don't make mistakes with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
that's kind of
and get Madison involved too.
Yeah, if you have
to,
screw it.
They can get them both involved.
Kirk Cousins, by the way, in both games against the Packers last year, threw for over 10 yards per attempt. He averaged 10 yards or more per pass attempt in both games. So,
yeah, this one's going to be close. I'm ultimately taking the Packers 30-27.
Wow, I literally just had that score pop in my head. I'm going to take the Packers. I'm going to take the Packers 27-26. Close one.
Wow.
They don't cover. Or wait, what was the spread?
There's a push. 1.
Yeah. So 27-26. I'm on there with Vegas in that one. So I want to take the Vikings. I really do. Yeah. But I don't know.
I know it's hard to bet against
Green Bay.
Bet against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I feel like Rodgers is going to want to have a bounce back game because he only scored 17 points last week.
Yeah, he's pissed.
So I think that works against him. But if the Minnesota Vikings run the football like crazy, they can beat the Green Bay Packers. Mark my words. Anyways, let's move on. Ravens at Bears. This one's going to be fun because
this one is going to be fun.
I feel like Justin Fields being like quote unquote great. Like, did you see this? People are like, I think PFF has pushed this narrative. They have him graded as the best quarterback in football over his last 2 games.
I mean, he's played well, but
it hasn't been elite. Like
at the end of the last game when he went off, that was elite status, but he's got to do that for the entire game.
Okay. If somebody clip this, if this is an old takes exposed, I'll eat it. If Justin Fields goes out there and scores more than, how am I going to phrase this? I don't think Justin Fields is going to have a good game. Let me just put it like that. I don't think it's going to be a very good game. I think he's going to go out there and maybe he'll have some plays with his legs. But I think that when you think about this one thing, right? What did the Baltimore Ravens, Wink Martindale, what did that defense do to Justin Herbert, who's a young quarterback, right? They gave him all he could handle. 34-6 was the final score in that game. I think we're looking at a similar story here. I think it won't be quite as bad because I'll give respect to Chicago's offense. They are playing better lately, in Fields in particular. But to me, the Ravens are 4.5-point favorites. I think that's a value. And I think that the over-under being 44 is, I think it's probably right on. I think Baltimore is one of those teams that, generally speaking, you can count on Baltimore to not shit the bed in games that they're supposed to win, right? And especially coming off of a game against Miami where they lost, and a bunch of players that are from Miami or from Florida or whatever on their roster, they've had a mini bye week to really think about it and let it soak in. They're going to come out pissed off, and I think they're going to take it all out on Chicago.
Yeah, but Chicago could also very well be right in this game. Look what the Dolphins did last week to the Ravens. They blitzed, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bears are watching tape, and they're going to be bringing the blitz because they obviously cannot hold the blitz right now. And if Fields plays better, he had his career best performance last week. So if he can match that,
the week before last week,
yeah. If he can match that or even be better than that, and the Bears defense gets after Lamar, they have a chance. But if they don't, it could be an ass whooping by the Ravens. Get right game for Lamar and Baltimore.
So over under for Chicago in terms of points scored, 23.
If Fields, I'm going under.
Okay, yeah. Under, yeah. So I'm with you there. I think that the Ravens win this game 27-20.
I'm going 30-17.
Okay, so then you feel more bullish on Baltimore than I do.
Yeah, for sure.
We both like them to cover, and
it is on the road, and
I don't give a damn. I think they're going to be pissed off. Go out there.
Yeah, they're for sure going to be
whoop
pissed
that
off.
ass. I think the only reason I'm saying 27-20 is because I want to be respectful to what Chicago's doing lately, and I like recent trends to indicate where things are going. But which team do you trust more here? Baltimore to rebound or Chicago to continue?
We trust the Ravens, and we trust John Harbaugh to draw up a great game plan for this game because he's not going to stand for losing 2 in a row. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, and they have the mini bye to their advantage. That extra few days of game planning against Matt Nagy, who's not necessarily an elite level game planner in his own right. I think Baltimore cruises 27-20. I guess I like the over. Anyways, moving on. What do we got here? Bengals at Raiders. This one is super intriguing, and I can't get my head around which way I want to go in this one. So Cincy is a 1-point road favorite in Vegas. Over-under is 50.5, 50.5. So that's interesting. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I think it's going to be high scoring.
Okay. Since he's coming off a bye, so maybe remember that defense is not so bad in Cincinnati. And when you look at Derek Carr lately, he scored 30 points in his last 2 games combined. It's 15 points a game. And that's against the Giants and the Chiefs. Nobody would call the Chiefs an elite defense before even now. I call them a good one, as I posted earlier. But I think they're better than people think, I guess. But Derek Carr,
it's basically, I think this game is going to be whoever wants to win this game is going to come out and play their best ball because they're both on 2-game skids, right?
Yeah, and the Raiders have lost 4 of their last 6 games.
Yeah, not good.
That's very dangerous territory. And look, man, Derek Carr in the last 2 games, if we're talking recent trends, right? he has completed almost 68% of his passes. So the completion percentage hasn't been an issue. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, averaging under 7 yards an attempt. Okay, that obviously not so good, right? When you look at Joey Burrow, what has he done lately? So he had that game against Cleveland where he got his ass whooped, right? But he didn't play all that bad. He just made 2 mistakes with the interceptions in that one, right? So it wasn't like he just totally shit the bed. When I look at, so they've lost 2 in a row. I forgot about that.
The Bengals have and the Raiders.
So they got beat by the Jets, and then they got stomped by the Browns.
Yes.
And then they've had a bye week to really soak it all in. I'll tell you what. My gut instinct in this game, I trust, and by the way, they've lost 3 of 5, so it's not much better in Cincinnati. But I trust the Bengals more than I trust the Raiders right now.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
I think it was a classic letdown loss to the Jets where they beat the Ravens badly the week before in Baltimore. They claimed first place in the AFC North, and then they went in there and lost back-to-back games to 2 teams or to at least one team that you definitely should have beaten, the Jets, and then they got stomped by the Browns in a game that just really didn't go their way I would say more situational football aspect of reasons. But they have to do a better job of protecting Burrow. He's been sacked 8 times in those last 2 games, and just so you know, per pass attempt, that is on 74 pass attempts. That is not a good ratio at all. 74, every 9.3 attempts. So that's not good, right?
Not good at all.
And so Burrow's got to stop throwing interceptions, too. In his last 5 games, the guy's thrown 7 picks.
He needs to hand the ball off on this one. Joe Mixon could have a good game.
Can we get some Joe Mixon, please?
The Raiders can't defend the run. Shocker. But
is that true?
Yeah, that's true. They're giving up the 9th most points to the RB position.
Okay, yeah, you're right. They allow 4.5 yards a carry on the season.
Yeah, so
not good. So
this could be a good.
It's got to be a Joe Mixon blow up spot.
Yes,
it's got to be, man,
for sure.
DFS Joe Mixon should and could be a value in that way. But to me, as I mentioned, all that said, 7 interceptions in the last 5 games. I get all that. I'm still going with the Cincinnati Bengals simply because I trust them more. I just trust them, just like Vegas does. Vegas has them as 1-point road favorites. Vegas trusts them a little bit more. I'm with Vegas on that. I think the Bengals win this game. I'm going to say, believe it or not, I'm going to say 30-17 Bengals.
I'm going Bengals 27, Raiders 24.
Okay. So you like the over by half a point, and I like the under.
And I like them to cover.
I can always like the under. What is it with me and liking the under? And I of course like the Bengals to cover. What you do as well. You picked the Bengals, right?
Of course.
Okay, got it. Anyways, what are we at now?
Cardinals Seahawks. Another game that we don't know if Kyler Murray.
I think he's playing.
No,
he's playing.
I don't think he is. They're on bye next week, so I think they're going to hold him and D-Hop both out again this week, which is going to suck for them because they're going to need this win because the Seahawks need a win.
Here's the thing.
And they're going to come out desperate at home.
If they would have beat the Panthers last week, and I would say, yeah, you're totally right. They're going to rest Kyler, yada, yada, yada. Going to the bye, give him another rest. I get that. But they've now lost 2 of 3. And they've also, more importantly, or probably most importantly, have lost the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're going to match Seattle's desperation, in my opinion. If Kyler can go, he's going to go. I really think that, and so I don't think they now have the luxury of sitting him. So,
but they're also in trouble if he can't go and Colt McCoy can't go.
Oh shit!
I mean, think about that.
Oh my God,
who are they going to start?
I don't even know who their 3rd string quarterback is. I feel like I do know who it is, but I can't think of it now. In any event, if the 3rd string quarterback plays, Seattle wins. Period.
Yes.
If Colt McCoy plays, Seattle wins. Period. In my opinion, at least. And it could be another low-scoring game. I could totally see that because Russell still might not be ready to get in there and really be, Russell freaking Wilson. But, man, I think that when you look at this one, I really actually like the idea that it's a low-scoring game because Seattle is allowing 18 points a game over the last 6 games. The over-under in this one is 48. Vegas is betting on Kyler Murray to play. because there's no way you would have this be that high
with Colt McCoy.
Yeah, with Colt McCoy going into a Seattle Seahawks home stadium. And by the way, I think Colt McCoy as a Giant beat Seattle in Seattle last year. So take that. I guess I was about to say you can't expect Colt McCoy to go in there and beat him, but he literally did it last year. So, I mean, don't know, man.
If Kyler Murray plays in this one, I'm obviously taking the Cardinals to win this game on the road. Obviously, they need it because if they win this game, they will have a 2-game lead on the Rams.
Yeah, it's huge
in their division with the Rams loss. So this is a big game for them. I think if Kyler Murray, I'm pretty sure if he's a game time call, I think he's ultimately going to play in this one, and that's good for them because they need him.
So both games, looking back at last year, and I agree, I sort of agree with that. But let me get to my prediction in a minute. When you look at last year, they went over 48 points in both games. First game was that, I think it was the overtime game, right? The crazy one, Sunday Night Football, or no, was it not? Yeah, it was an overtime game, Sunday Night Football. It was a 37-34 Arizona win. Kyler Murray had a big game, 360 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then in the second game, it was 21-28. Seattle won that one. That was the one that was in Seattle. Kyler Murray didn't have the greatest game in that one. He was, he played pretty well. I'm just rattling off nonsense. But he only averaged 6.4 yards an attempt, I guess, so it wasn't his best game. But I think that Kyler, for whatever reason, didn't run very effectively in that second game against Seattle. So we'll see how that looks if he's able to go. But as I mentioned on the pod the other day when I did my fantasy rankings for the rest of the season, I'm not so sure Kyler Murray is going to be as explosive as a runner.